A positive janitor, Ron combines work with fun by listening to music. However, he pauses when he notices scientist Peter is still around working late. Ron tries to pull a prank by putting his body against the glass, but Peter is too concentrated on his job and doesn't notice. Then he goes in to clean the lab while the scientist has stepped away to get something to eat. The curious janitor peeks behind the curtain where he sees a man with bulging veins and tubes connected to him. Ron touches the man's arm, he jerks, and the guy bounces off, shorting out the life support device in the back. The janitor pushes all the buttons trying to revive the man. Then Ron panics and gets on top of the patient to start CPR and sees his bloody gums. Filling his mouth with mints, Ron gives him CPR. Seeing that CPR isn't working, Ron begins to massage his heart. Ron's not much of a resuscitator. The man suddenly opens his red eyes and attacks Ron. It turns out this man is patient 0 of a new zombie infection. The two of them run around the lab exchanging hits while Peter still struggles against the machine, not noticing a thing even when Ron puts his bloody hands on the window. When Peter is ready to give up on the snacks, he turns around and finds a zombified Ron who quickly jumps on him and kills him. The next day, Scout leader Rogers, together with his 3 group members Ben, Carter, and Augie, are at a school trying to find new recruits using a very cringy scout video. Unfortunately, everyone thinks they are losers for still being scouts at this age, and nobody wants to join. Before leaving, Rogers announces Augie will get the highest badge in scouting, so they'll be holding the ceremony at night at a campsite. Afterward, on their way home, Carter and Ben discuss the matter of scouting because the only reason they're still members is for Augie's sake. Augie has felt lonely since he lost his dad, and the scouts are all he has. But they're graduating next year, and they haven't gotten any girls or gone to any parties, which Carter blames on the scout uniform because it makes them look like children. Since they're so busy arguing, they don't see a deer standing in the middle of the road and accidentally run over it, which punctures a car tire. After checking on the dead deer, Carter takes a selfie with it while Ben begins working on changing the tire. At that moment, Carter's sister Kendall drives up with her boyfriend Jeff and friend Chloe. Ben has always had a crush on Kendall, but she is dating Jeff and sees Ben as a little brother, and Carter doesn't know it. The situation is rather awkward, especially when Carter begins to flirt with Chloe terribly and Jeff makes fun of Ben for the uniform. When the subject of the deer comes up, they notice the body isn't on the road anymore and only left a stain behind. Meanwhile, Carter asks about the party everyone is talking about, and to everyone's surprise, Jeff invites them to come. When they return home, Carter insists on a very stupid plan. They'll show up at Augie's ceremony, and once he falls asleep, they'll sneak out to go to the party and return before dawn. Ben reluctantly agrees. Later in the afternoon, Rogers is on his way to the camping site when he finds a tag with the name Peter on it, although the address indicates it couldn't be possible for it to have fallen this far. Rogers notices something moving in the bushes, and when he takes a look, he's suddenly attacked by the deer the boys hit, because it's become a zombie too. Using his scout knife, Rogers stabs the deer in the eye to kill it. However, when he turns around, he finds zombie Peter, who quickly bites Rogers. Meanwhile, Carter and Ben go to the convenience store, and Carter pays off a hobo to buy them alcohol because they are minors. The guys drool when they see Denise. She dropped out of high school a couple years ago and went into stripping. A girl's back strap rips and Ben ties it with his trademark knot. Dennis helps the guys out, takes money from a homeless guy, and buys them a beer. Then she goes to work at the strip club across the street. Sometime later, the 3 young scouts are surprised that Rogers hasn't arrived. Augie thinks it's a test to get his badge, so the boys proceed to prepare the camping site. Augie is incredibly prepared while Carter is messy, but the trio still has a lot of fun going through the usual activities and makes a good team. Eventually night falls and Rogers still doesn't show up, so the boys chat around the campfire while roasting marshmallows. Augie is happy to have his friends with him after his dad abandoned him and makes them promise scouts forever. Meanwhile, the party is in full swing, but Kendall is worried that the boys haven't come. Jeff doesn't look surprised and distracts her with a dance. A few hours later, Augie is finally asleep, and Carter and Ben sneak out of the campsite. On their way to the car, they find Roger's knife on the ground, which worries Ben because he knows Rogers wouldn't go anywhere without it. He also notices footprints on the mud, but Carter doesn't care and drags Ben to the car. Unfortunately, Augie is waiting for them there and knows about the party. So it's time for Ben and Carter to admit they don't want to be scouts anymore because they need to grow up. Hurt and disappointed, Augie tells them to leave. Moments later, Ben and Carter make it back to town and notice it's very empty for a Saturday night. They stop the car by the convenience store to change out of their uniforms, and Ben's bad feelings get worse when he notices the store's glass door is broken. His thoughts are interrupted by Carter, who points out that the doorman isn't at the club's entrance anymore, so this is their chance. Taking this opportunity, the guys go inside, and it is also empty. Carter goes to the ATM to get some cash, and Ben sits down in front of the stage, where a gorgeous stripper begins to dance in front of him. Soon Carter joins them and begins throwing money at the dancer, who pulls a special trick on the pole and ends up upside down. Turns out she converted too. To make matters worse, the doorman also shows up as a zombie and attacks them. While Ben runs into the bathroom and the doorman follows him, the dancer attacks Carter. But he plunges a broken bottle into her head, and a whole fountain of blood pours onto Carter. At this time, Ben was hiding in the restroom stall from the doorman.